Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Manufacturing Transformed. Today, I had a really great conversation with Eric and John from Paramount Machine in Salt Lake City, Utah. They are a really interesting shop with an incredibly diverse set of equipment, about 70 employees, every kind of machining you can imagine under the sun, and well diversified across multiple industries. And we get into lots of different things, including some of the challenges they were facing before they adopted ProShop, like having to print sometimes 6 copies of a Traveler even before it hit the floor, just knowing it was going to get distributed and divided up in the shop. How John used to spend a lot of his time out on the shop floor, how people would sometimes start jobs without the material being here and they had no idea that was happening, and just so much less visibility about what was coming, when it was due, how it was going. And so some of the improvements they've seen, including on-time delivery performance. But what we also really dig into is that this has been a hard process. Like, there's no doubt about it. Replacing an ERP system is not a walk in the park. And there's been challenges with getting their team to do time tracking reliably and all those types of things that are sometimes just challenging. And I appreciate them being authentic about it and just, telling the real story. We're not trying to sugarcoat it here. But ultimately, they're clearly seeing that this was worth doing. They see the reasons why it's important. In fact, that's one of the things John said after we stopped recording. He said, this is hard, but for the right reasons, right? And so I love that. And let's go ahead and get into it. Enjoy this conversation with John and Eric from Paramount Machine. All right. Eric and John from Paramount Machine, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for coming on with me. So let's start with a little bit of the background. Let's start with the background of you guys, and then we'll get into the company. Although, Eric, I'm sure yours is kind of intimately related. But John, let's start with you first. You're on my left.
So I'm in my 20th year here at Paramount. I came from a machine tool sales background. And
Cool.
Along the way, established a good relationship with Steve, the owner, and was selling him some equipment one day, and he offered me a job. And I had been out on the road traveling a lot and was looking to be home with little kids. And
awesome.
Here I am.
Okay. And what is your role there?
So I am the general manager. When Steve brought me on, he literally said, "I want to hire you, but I don't really know what I want you to do." So that's evolved into many different things throughout the years, but it's been a really great experience.
Well, that's a cool story. That means there was a lot of trust already there with where he even said, would you like to come join the company?
We've gone through a lot of adventures together.
Yeah. Awesome. And Eric, how about you?
I grew up around the shop, obviously with my dad owning it. Was in the backyard when the shop was in the backyard. Wanted to go see what he was doing, working on. I would skip school. I've told some of these stories before. Skip school, come hang out at work. And then as things progressed, I eventually made my way here and on the shop floor. More of a shop floor role for me within the company, helping out different guys on the floor, working with tooling, kind of that nature, helping lead that. And yeah, I've been here full time for 16 years, I think, 17. One of those two, close.
Just a little bit less than John.
Yep. Yeah, me and John go back.
Very cool.
Would help babysit his kids too, and we definitely have a close connection.
Yeah. We've been family for a while.
That's a fantastic, beautiful thing. All right, so let's tell us a little bit about Paramount. When did your dad start it? How old is it? Snapshot of what you guys look like today, what you specialize in, kind of machinery, that kind of thing.
Started in 98 is when he started full time. I think it was 95. They
95 part time, 98 full time.
We have
Okay.
just over 70 employees, 30,000 square foot facility. Everything CNC, horizontals, 5-axis, mill turn centers, multi-channels, EDM, wire and sinker, handful of screw machines, turning centers, just kind of well diversified.
Yeah.
What you
That is well
typically see
diversified.
probably in most machine shops.
So I'll raise my hand in ignorance. What is a multi-channel machine?
Mill turn capability. So we have a couple of Mori NTX 1000s
Okay.
with milling subspindle Y-axis.
Okay.
And then we've also got a 3-channel Mori NZX.
Okay. The word channel I hadn't heard in that context, but yeah, amazing machines. Very cool.
They are.
Yeah. And what do you guys specialize in making?
So our primary customer for the last several years has been in the X-ray industry, but we are growing in the defense world. We also do oil and gas. Utah's got a really diverse machining economy, and we've kind of touched at one point or another in all those aspects of industrial and medical, aerospace, defense. But primarily now it's medical and defense work.
Got it. Yeah, X-ray. That is interesting. I haven't heard another shop say X-ray equipment before. That's must be a pretty big one if they're keeping a shop like you guys somewhat busy.
They have some interesting parts.
Yeah, I'll bet. And so very much job shop, or do you guys do a lot of repeat contract type of work?
Originally started out as really truly job shop, and moving more and more all the time into that contract world. Still not really big volume, but we see a lot of part numbers that repeat across the board with most of our customers.
Okay. And what certifications do you hold?
We're AS 9100, ITAR, and of course working on the CMIC stuff.
CMMC, yes. Everyone that's in defense should be. If they're not, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
And what makes Paramount Machine unique?
I think our culture makes us unique. There's a lot of guys that have been here for quite a bit of time, and just the camaraderie that we have on the shop floor. Everyone knows everyone on some personal level. It's not just coworker that you say hi to and bye to when you walk out the door. And we try to facilitate that camaraderie and do different events to get people engaged and involved. And like we just had last week, it was National Hot Dog Day. So we bought like 150 hot dogs and had a big hot dog bar set up, and most of the shop ate lunch together. So different events like that, try and keep everyone included and involved. That's from my perspective on the shop floor. What I see is something
that's super fun.
Really helps out and what makes us different. I think our commitment to investment in the company as well, equipment, the machine centers, and investing back into the employees. Very apparent when you walk in that we care about putting money back into the business.
Well, yeah, with the equipment you guys described having.
I think from a business side, Steve's been really, really good at reinvesting in the business. I always tease him, my most expensive friend he ever made, coming from a machine tool sales background. But he has been very good to invest in new equipment and new technologies and continue to invest in employees in the shop floor and let them learn how to utilize that machine and the software and be able to grow.
So why don't you paint the picture for me of what was happening out in the shop or in the company when you guys came to the decision you needed some kind of different software solution than what you guys were doing previously? What challenges were you facing and what was going on?
For me, it was really, there'd been frustration for a while with the system that we had. And when we originally went and did that, there were some customizations and things that they allowed us to do that then set in place a trend of continually paying them to update stuff.
Mm.
And that became, over time, that became limiting. So we had been talking about it for quite a while and looking here and there, at trips to IMTS and different events, trying to find what might be a new solution.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of stumbled on ProShop. And we're growing and needed to have better visibility. And so that really is kind of, for me, what drove my interest was, trying to get something that we could get a better handle on what was going on the shop.
On the shop floor side, we were doing time entry, but we weren't seeing any schedules or anything more on the back end that ProShop gives you visibility to be able to see from the shop floor. So just kind of was more antiquated on the shop floor, and simple time entry is basically all we could really do.
Mm-hmm. So more fully relying on a paper system and just a little bit of touch points here and there for time tracking.
Correct.
And so what kind of challenges did that lack of visibility turn into? And you guys are a big shop, a lot of people.
Meeting customers' delivery schedules and understanding which machines were committed and how long those commitments were going to last.
How long have you guys been AS9100? For quite a while now?
Probably at least 10.
Close to a decade, yeah.
Okay. And if you were looking at systems over, you said more than one IMTS, this was a long thought out process. So how long is the previous system been in place?
Close to 16 years.
Yeah.
I think it's about 16 years ago.
Okay.
Coincided with about the same time we moved to our new location that we're at now.
15 to 16 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the point I was getting at is, if you've been AS that long, you've been tracking your on-time delivery performance. Do you call what numbers you were kind of trying to hit or struggling to hit in terms of delivery performance to your customers?
Well, we have a couple of customers that really want to hold you to a 98+% delivery schedule. And we were able to do that for some, but not all.
And what kind of effort did it take to even hit those numbers in terms of the resource, the labor, the effort?
It takes a lot of time out on the floor to run those jobs down and make sure where they are, make sure they're getting pushed and that they're the right visibility that they need.
Mm-hmm. I imagine those, and I've never been, just for the listeners, I've never been to your shop. I definitely hope to get out there at some point. But I've talked to you guys at some NTMA meetings and, obviously online as well. But I get the impression you guys are a shop of pretty high integrity. And so trying to hit those numbers, hit that performance for your customers is something you guys take very seriously and probably personally. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, there is. We really try to do the best we can, and when we don't meet those expectations, it's not just, oh well, next time. There's some personal accountability there, and everyone wants to do better continually. I think that this path of going down ProShop and what we're doing and on the shop floor, it's a continual improvement type thing, and not just with ERP systems or technologies. We're continually improving ourselves on the floor, learning more, being more invested in what we're actually doing besides just pushing buttons.
Yeah. Is that mindset, has that always been there? John, I imagine you bring that. Steve, is that a hallmark that Steve really kind of leans into, or Eric?
No, that's always been there. Steve for sure brings that. Very customer driven company. I think you asked earlier in the podcast what sets us apart. We spend a lot of time with our customers in the education process of machining. What our equipment can do for them, why things don't work on prints. We spend a lot of time with engineers. We have a really open door policy with our customers and the engineering teams and that they have. So we really try and collaborate with them. And so, the on-time delivery thing obviously ties very much into that.
Right. Yeah. So are your biggest customers pretty close geographically to you?
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they can come over and see you and you can go see them.
One's just down the street, half mile, and then couple miles other direction is one of our other larger customers. So there's definitely, where we're at geographically, there's a lot of our customers around us.
Yeah, that's actually wonderful. That's great. Although it provides a level of accessibility to your shop.
It does.
That's maybe sometimes a challenge.
It does. It's very easy for them to come over and say, "Hey, let's go see that out on a machine."
Right. Yeah. So there's no smoke and mirrors. No. You gotta be really truthful about where things are at and what's going on.
No, that is very true. There's 2 different customer visits scheduled already this visit or this week.
Very interesting. So I'm curious, just on the collaboration, you didn't say the words DFM, but I'm sure that's really what you meant, about their drawings and prints. Just because that was a mainstay of my shop. We had a newsletter. We started doing, DFM boot camps. We did like 25 of those over the years. In what format does that collaboration take? Like, are you going over, sitting with their engineers? Is it just over email? Did they come visit you guys? How does that? I'm just curious.
It really is all the above. Sometimes it's going to their facility. Sometimes it's them coming here. A lot of times it is done through email.
Right.
We've a couple of times we've actually had some industry experts come out and teach a course. We did a course on surface finish, and then a course on thread making and thread gauging. And some of the customers that we were working with closely on some of these things where, we wanted to get this training to better ourselves, to make better products for them. But we also invited them and their team to come down and sit on them as well. So we could all be on the same page and have the same understandings of same expectations of what we were building to, and making sure that was meeting the customer's requirements as well.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. What a great way to build a true partnership and relationship that's more than just a vendor customer relationship, right? You guys are a real partner in their success.
Yeah, and that's what we wanted it to be, is let's partner with on this and make sure we're all together and on the same page.
I'm getting the feeling that partnership is an important thing in all the relationships that Paramount has, customers, vendors of any kind. Is that a fair way to say it?
I think that's a very fair way to say it. I think the view is that if we can establish those partnerships, then hopefully we can establish the value that comes with those beyond just providing a part.
That's fantastic. That's a great takeaway right there. I mean, I think every really enduring, excellent company has to have that mindset that relationships up and down the value stream, at least in this industry, maybe not in all, but in this industry, that's just a critical. I was going to say it's a paramount value, but maybe pun intended, but inadvertently. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for driving down that rabbit hole with me.
Yeah.
So as you went through this very thoughtful process of looking at different systems and then finally ultimately decided on ProShop, what was it about ProShop that stood out that let you decided take that leap, partner with us instead of someone else?
For me, it's just like it was going to be really user friendly and easy to learn and to use. I like the way that you could navigate through it, and I'm still really impressed with that.
We got told on the floor about the ability. Yeah, you guys have like online help, where if you don't know something, you can go to the knowledge base and look up articles about it, and that's been helpful for us as well. And, definitely more than what we had. So there's excitement on our side, on the floor side too.
And I don't think we actually said, Eric, besides Steve's son, what is your actual role there?
It depends on the day.
You wear many hats.
Yeah,
he's a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
Okay.
So mainly I'm in the Swiss area and oversee the daily production of that. And that's kind of where I'm based out of in the shop. But more recently, I've started to go across to other people with technical help. If someone gets stuck in a process or trying to define a process of, hey, this isn't working, what can we do better? That's where I'll kind of go and help out a little bit more. And more of the role that I'm evolving into is like a kind of a technical advisor for most of the shop. Anyone that wants to participate with me.
Right. So did you do any, obviously growing up in the shop is super helpful. Did you go off and do any like technical schooling or anything, or is it all just hands-on learning in the shop?
It's all hands-on learning in the shop. I've started deburring parts, washing parts. Actually, before I started that, I was sweeping and mopping, and then started working on deburring parts, washing parts. Did some time on manuals, did some time on some conventional lathes, did some time on the EDM, sinker and the wire, and then kind of evolved into a need for the Swiss area. And then that's where I've been for the past 10 years is there. And slowly starting to work my way out of there to be able to help multiply throughout the entirety of the shop. So, but it's all just hands-on learning. I'm constantly thinking about machining. I go home and I'm looking up YouTube videos and reading through catalogs and trying to understand nomenclature of tooling and what different coatings do. And it just never stops for me. And,
oh, it's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Your dad must be so proud to have you just go so deep into the family business and really thrive at it. That's amazing.
The fun part in this industry is there are those guys who get into it and they just live it. Eric's become one of those guys.
That's very cool. Yeah, and they're hard to find. So
very much
incredibly valuable. Those really technical troubleshooter, can do anything, help anywhere kind of people. All right. You decided to get ProShop. Let's just be candid with the audience. There were some struggles with onboarding it.
There was, and we're still in the process of onboarding it. It's a very big, powerful program.
Yeah.
Still finding tools in the toolbox.
Right. Yeah. And change management is a really crucial thing that is at the core of switching something like an ERP system, especially for a 70-person company. And change management is hard, right? And companies aren't necessarily great at it. Not that you guys are or aren't, but just, in general, making a huge change like that, sort of the backbone of the business. I sometimes call it a spinal cord replacement, right? In medical terms, it's like that is really complicated and hard. So, what are some of the challenges you guys have faced?
Getting buy-in on the shop floor with everyone of the idea.
Mm-hmm.
It is a cultural shift from the timekeeping that we had, deployed for years. It's a different process, and we're almost all the way through it, and getting everyone to go into the estimating and use the estimating software, which I really like.
Mm-hmm.
I love the idea of being able to build everything up front and then pass it off to let someone set up a job if that customer gives us the opportunity. But it's been a process of getting everyone onboarded to the idea of the change.
Because previously, out on the shop floor, the only real interaction they had was timekeeping, right?
Yeah.
Besides that, they're just dealing with their machines, they're paper travelers, and that was the extent of any interaction they had with it. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely was.
Yeah.
It's all we were using it for previously on the shop floor. Just didn't have all the tools built in that ProShop has.
Sure.
And the other ERP system probably had more capabilities than what we ever got to use. I think that we've learned more about what ERP is supposed to be, what it's supposed to look like by going to ProShop. You have like Eric mentioned earlier, there's an opportunity to continually educate yourself on the software.
Yeah. And I imagine it's always the case that in our customers that there are some folks on the shop floor, maybe it's age related, that are kind of eager and excited to try something new and go digital, and others that are just very much not very excited about it, at least the concept.
We have some of that. And I think that you kind of tiptoe a little bit about an age-related thing, and there might be some of the truth to that. And where we're constantly bringing new employees in, younger generation, it is important to get them excited about something, and the digital age that we live in, and the digital aspects of ProShop definitely cater to them a little bit more and what they're used to.
Sure.
We have an entire generation. I think we have 11 people under the age of 25. They've only ever been used to seeing things on a screen. But they don't want a piece of paper.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And then you have other folks on the opposite end that have only done it on paper and are a little gun shy. I'm curious to get your thoughts. It's always struck me as interesting that, even an older machinist that hasn't traditionally used computers a ton, at least PCs. They're sitting there at a computer controlled machine that's a $500,000 really complicated piece of machinery, and they're whipping through that thing like it's secondhand. And yet there's something odd about why having working on a computer for things like work instructions or inspections or whatever is different. And I still can't wrap my head around how. But maybe it was just. Maybe the CNC was, uncomfortable when it was brand new, if they were a manual machinist, but they've learned it over the years and now they're just, second nature to them. So I don't know. Any thoughts on that philosophical pondering?
If you figure out the answer to that, then I think that you'll have an even better product to market than what you have right now.
Okay. All right. Very good. That makes a lot of sense.
I think ultimately we just all get to the point where we don't like change.
Yeah, I think that's it. That is just it. All right. So with what I often hear with an older system is that they were using it partially, which you kind of alluded to, and backing it up with just a lot of other spreadsheets and other little outside systems, and maybe the QMS is separate, or maybe whatever it might be, tooling. Is that the case here as well? Do you guys had a lot of disparate systems kind of helping manage different aspects of the business?
We had quoting in spreadsheets. We had time clocking in the ERP. We were cast around in different places. We had our prints and drawings in another spot on our server. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very common. All right. And once you really got into, past the demos and really into training, oftentimes there's for some people there's a moment when they really start to understand what they're learning or what they're seeing, or a feature that is very different than what they're accustomed to, that sometimes is like a light bulb moment. Do either of you remember seeing something and like, oh wow, this is like really going to change the game for us and make our lives easier than it previously was?
One thing that I see on the shop floor daily is like the quantity queue to the next op, being able to keep track of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because before,
Yep.
we would write it down on a print, and every time someone took a part somewhere else, they would write down how many pieces they took. And then you'd have to rely on making sure that that's accurate. And there was always some of these jobs that ran longer and had higher quantities. You'd spend almost half a day, it felt like, at the end trying to track down everything, where it was at, how many pieces. So we've gone away from that with the queue to next op. And one thing that I found was like, oh, that's really cool, is just being able to mouse over that field and it will automatically tabulate all of your additions and part numbers in there. So that's definitely cut down on making sure at the end of a job when we're wrapping up that we've got everything included. And so that's one feature that I really like about it on the floor. That helps John's side too in the office, and them being able to see where the part is in the shop and how it's flowing. And yeah, you started to ask, we do have jobs that take, we may be running them for 3 or 4 weeks at a time, and doing weekly deliveries, or even quality checks, at the end of each shift, taking them in, having a random number checked. So we do move back and forth quite a bit. And some of that is the demand of the customer, just making sure that we're hitting deliveries and trying to constantly keep things moving and rolling. So yes, there is a constant flow of parts throughout different areas of the shop.
Yeah. How did you handle that? You mentioned you would previously write on the drawing or in the print how many parts had moved to what op, but how did you do traceability when you only had one job traveler and you're splitting off multiple batches?
We had to start making copies.
Tickets.
There are copies of travelers, and you had to move a copy with the parts that you moved, and probably some parts that we've done that we had, like the project manager would make 6 copies of the traveler at the very beginning, just knowing that it was going to go through so many different things, and everyone would have their own copy of their traveler. So
A traveler with a move ticket and everyone signing it and keeping track of it. It's a big headache.
No kidding. 6 copies of the travelers. Yeah, and your AS auditors were okay with having 6 copies of the traveler
with move tickets.
With move.
Yeah, as long as they had a ticket with it that had a trail, you could see where the parts came from.
And what was that like at the end of a job to reconcile and figure out exactly how many parts were finished or made or shipped or inspected? Or
It was a mess. It was a mess. No, this is really nice. Even the shipping department can see Eric's group has several part numbers that they ship on a weekly basis, and shipping can look in there on Tuesday and see if they're on schedule for Thursday ships and for Friday ships, because we have a route that we run our driver on to deliver to our customers, and they're able to look ahead and see how his group's coming along and see where the parts have been moved, if they're in deburr, if they're in QC. We've got a lot more visibility than we ever had.
what does that mean for the movement of people in the facility?
It hasn't changed that at this point.
Okay.
It's changed me having to get up and go look for stuff or send somebody to go do it.
Okay.
But I think that you might be indicating, are we moving people around to where we have a different labor need?
No, more I was thinking like going and finding status.
Okay, well,
like,
then it's changed
you
my
know, the
movement.
shipping department knowing. Okay, fewer steps. The step meter on your watch has gone
I'm walking
down.
after work now.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing. Yeah. I mean, I've certainly been in shops where there's just people constantly walking around looking for stuff, right? Maybe it's the shipping department wanting to make sure that their shipments are good. And so they're going over to the Swiss department, like, hey, how many of those do you have done? Am I going to be able to ship 20 today, or whatever? Contrasted with, shops where, sort of post ProShop, like there's just, everyone's just kind of in their area doing their thing. Parts are moving when they need to move, but there seems to be less of a flurry of like a beehive of busyness, but there's more throughput, there's more efficiency. So I'm wondering if that might be the case.
There definitely is less walking back and forth, trying to track stuff down, figure out information. And yeah, like you said, it's kind of consolidated a little bit where, hey, you can just stay in your area and keep busy. And it's hard to judge exact throughput. And are we better in our machining process, or is this ProShop that's moving all of this? It's hard to judge where each one of those, like how much each one adds, but we are constantly increasing our throughput and growing.
Can you elaborate at all on that growth?
We've had a fairly steady, with exceptions of 1 year post COVID, 10 to 15% growth year over year.
That's fantastic. That's great. That's awesome. And you imagine you're adding machines and people through that whole period of time as well.
We've continued to add people. We moved into this building that we're in about 14 years ago.
Okay.
And I think when we came over, we had 27. About that.
Yeah.
And we're more than double that number now.
Wow.
I think we were at 13 CNCs when we came over, and we're at 34 now.
Okay.
So yes, we've had
34 machines now.
Fairly constant and continual growth. And we're right now at a reinvestment phase where we're swapping out some of the 10 and 12-year-old CNCs, updating, bringing in newer machines and better efficiencies.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Are you getting machines with more automation in them? Pallet changers or bar feeders or things like that?
Yeah, we've got 2 robot tended machines. We have pallet systems on most of our horizontals, all the way up to 114 pallets on one of our 5-axis machines. Eric's department has bar feeders on all of their Swiss machines. So yeah, we've definitely gone towards more and more of the automation.
And same with like our NT and our NZ that we have. Those have bar feeders on them as well. Be able to keep that production going too.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's it's so funny. Paramount.
Paramount.
I think that's essential for any shop these days to start leaning more into automation, both on the machines and quite honestly in the office as well. In fact, a customer and I are going to give a talk at the Task conference, the Automated Shop conference in Indianapolis in August, about automating the front end of their business, with ProShop, and just what that's just everything that's facilitated for even just supporting the a more automated shop floor, with things coming out faster, with less lead time, with less labor touching it. So that's going to be really fun. Well, Eric, I guess you had mentioned that you're not sure where it's coming from, but you are starting to see more throughput. And John, you'd mentioned that that scheduling was an on-time delivery was a challenge. But before we hit record, you said that scheduling is a feature you're really starting to enjoy. Can you elaborate on what you've seen in terms of improvements in delivery, or just any more anecdotes about throughput just kind of increasing overall and maybe having an easier time hitting that on-time delivery?
So definitely love the scheduling side of ProShop, being able to get into each of the work centers and see the hours that are ahead of them, and see the outputs that we're getting, being able to have visibility on if we need to make some moves, if there's customer calls that need to be made, kind of where we need to be pushing in the shop. But yeah, that extra visibility that we're getting out of that is even for the due dates that we're promising our customers has been very, very helpful.
That's awesome. Has it resulted in better on-time performance?
Yes, it has.
Yeah, you had mentioned that some of your customers want 98+%, and you were able to hit that with some and not with all of them. Are you hitting that more with more of them now, or just with less brute force to get the same result?
We're hitting it with less brute force.
I think we're more frequently across the board, instead of having to just pick and choose some of those at times. So it is increasing across the board too.
Right. Nice. That's awesome. How does that feel to be on time more often?
It makes sleep a lot easier.
Yeah. That's good.
And it makes giving customers, promise dates a lot easier. There's other outside challenges, obviously, that you understand from having a shop, that
Sure.
The outside processes and those things that we don't have control over, but being able to control our assets and being able to get parts out to outside processing so they have time to do their job, it's a lot nicer way to manage.
And with the scheduling too, kind of made me think about it. We'll go in and look at our schedules for the work centers, and before we would just have to put prints in order of operation how we'd want to do them, and someone came looking for a print and grabbed something, and then the whole order gets messed up. We're being able to go into the work centers and show like what job is next on the machine. So it makes it a lot easier on the shop floor side to be able to know what the next 3 parts are that you're going to be doing and have that visibility. And we've started to report too that in the next, in my weekly meetings in our area, we'll report, hey, for the next 6 months, we have this many hours scheduled and this many hours allocated to the machine. So it gives everyone that transparency and that viewpoint too, that there's a lot of things that need to be continually happening in order to meet that demand.
So even the machinists are getting a lot more visibility about the backlog they have ahead of them, how much work is coming, what they need to do.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think that's actually helping with some of the buy-in on ProShop, is that they're actually to see what work orders are coming their way, what they're going to be doing tomorrow, next week, and even next month.
Right. So Eric, what you were saying, just so I'm clear about it, you would have physically like a stack or a queue of travelers, physical travelers. If someone took one out of the middle, then people might run jobs out of the right or the wrong order. Like they wouldn't, because they were relying on that stack to tell them what to do next.
Basically, yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
and one of the guys that helps me out in the area kind of helps run it with me. Me and him, Scott, we would have to go through travelers at machines almost every day and just make sure that the order stayed the same, or we would have to almost memorize what the order was across the 7 different machines, and then try and catch something if it got started in the incorrect order, or if there was a customer demand that changed. Sometimes we'll have one customer and having those conversations with them, like, hey, they may call up and say, we know this date's out, but what can you do to move it? Because we ran out of product.
Sure.
And so we can go and look and pull the traveler up and move it. And so we'd have to do all that. And it was probably at least once a day. I mean, maybe it was like 3 times a week that we were constantly going through and shuffling those around and making sure that everything was in order and what we thought could be the best way to get through everything in a timely manner. And now with ProShop, you can just click and drag them, and makes it really easy.
Did you ever have the situation where you started a setup and then realized that it wasn't the right one to set up, and you had to switch and do something else because the dates weren't going to work out?
We've started setups without material because we had no visibility that material was here or not here. So now through ProShop and the visibility there, we can check the material for the work order there, see what we have in inventory, and rely on that. There's a couple of guys that are a little gun shy that first thing they do is go find the material because they've got caught a couple times almost all the way through and, we don't have material.
Yeah. Oh God, that's a bad day when you realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When we started onboarding customers, close to 9 years ago now, keep in mind, when we built ProShop at ProCNC, our shop, none of us had ever worked anywhere else. We didn't really have a frame of reference of a lot of things related to other companies and what they dealt with. But some of the first few customers that we brought on told us that they dramatically cut down the amount of like UPS overnight shipping that they had to do just for cutting tools or material or inserts or who knows what. And also just cutting down the time that they had expediters, people just, that was their job to go expedite jobs, just that there was way less, way less time put towards that type of activity. Have you guys started to see anything like that where you're, scrambling last second to bring something in, urgently or overnight or anything like that?
Less on tooling, but probably more on seeing less of it in expediters, like you were saying, having people constantly having to shuffle around and have their finger in a little bit of everything. There's definitely less of that. I'm not quite so sure on the tooling side of what we're doing there.
Sure. Because you guys have not yet adopted the tooling module wholesale. Have you yet?
We have not yet adopted that.
Okay.
And
got it.
Yeah, we're still just running a vendor managed inventory system and asking them for insight onto supply and demand and where to move quantities to try and cut down on that side. Like you're saying, the overnight things for tooling.
Yeah. So it's a vending machine system that you use?
Yeah, vending machine system. And we have 3 different vendors that manage 3 different vending machines.
Okay. So even with the vending machines, you still find yourselves sometimes without the tools that you need.
It happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't have everything in them.
No. And that's
Right. Yeah.
so
Sure.
another, you asked kind of my role. That's another role that I'm taking on is I'm constantly engaged in the tooling, and 3 times a week I get reports sent. And a lot of the times they're 30-second review, just see where things are moving, what levels are at,
Mhm.
and can try and get ahead of it through there. Um,
Sure.
and it's not necessarily that we're completely out and have to overnight because there's an issue. Um,
Got it.
because we've ran low on inventory. Normally, when that happens, we've had some bad runs of things, and the consumption was a lot higher than what normally
Right.
typically was.
Yeah. That can certainly always happen. Is it your intention to someday adopt the tooling module, or is that something that's not in the plan?
I don't know, honestly.
Okay, TBD.
Yeah.
TBD.
Yeah.
It's we're trying to think of the right way to put it, but from what I've seen in the tooling module, you have to create demand. Each part creates demand for tooling, and then that's
Right.
what places orders. And
Yep.
with the reinvestment
Exactly.
in the shop that Steve facilitates, we have been very lucky to have a lot of stuff on hand, just to be able to have on hand. And there's a lot of, he's been fine tying up some of that dollar amount in having things like that.
Mm.
So I honestly don't know, and I can't say for sure right now. We're still trying to get through like the basics of it and get the basic stuff implemented. But
Sure.
it has been slow integration for
The-
us, but we're working on trying to slowly get there. And buy-in has been difficult at times, but it's moving now, and we're getting a lot more progress and doing a lot more than probably we thought. I think at this point, a year ago, we are a lot further along than either John or I would have imagined.
Yeah, I think we've turned a significant corner from this time last year. And
Mhm.
as far as percentages in time, I probably spend 50% less time out on the shop floor trying to expedite and run things down for people and push things somewhere else. I'm able to spend a lot more time with some project managers working on quotes, working on those customer relationships. It's given me a lot more time to be able to focus on other parts of the business.
That's huge. Wow, that's awesome to hear that. Yeah, no, it is it is a journey for sure. And we talk about, and I'm sure you've heard us talk about the, crawl, walk, run, and sounds like you're maybe moving into the walking phase, but you're not quite running, which is where things like, tooling and some of the other modules that I'd say are not totally essential, but can be extremely helpful.
I would definitely agree. That's probably about where we are. Still
Yeah.
figuring that out
Yeah.
before we can run.
Sure.
I think we're almost ready to stand up.
Sounds like you're doing more than standing up if you're spending 50% less time running around the shop floor looking for things.
The time to be able to spend on other project managers is really nice.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's it brings up for me the theme that, and you alluded to this earlier, John, with estimating, that being more thorough and more thoughtful and focusing up front to make sure things run smoothly later has such a huge return on time investment, right? Just being a little more, again, thorough with your estimates, with your manufacturing planning process, just has so many dividends on the back end. So you basically eliminate fires before they even start, just by putting a little more time up front. And some people I've heard say, well, we don't have time to put more time up front. We don't want to, like, that's counterintuitive. Like, why would we need to spend more time up front? And the feedback we get time and time again is, if you you're not talking about many times more time effort up front. You're talking about an incremental, small investment of additional time to be more thorough in certain aspects, and it just saves so many headaches down the line. So, are you starting to see that? Is that partly why you're freeing up your time?
No, I agree with that 100%. And I'd take it one step farther too for maybe those that will listen to this. And that is to say that it doesn't mean that when you were building that up front that you got it perfect. But there's plenty of ability in the system to go back in and edit times on parts and edit the processes. And it may not be 100% perfect, but this is a really easy way. There's a really easy way to go, easy way to go back in and address those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think too, with the story that you're telling about this and what John's saying is that it's really easy for someone to visually see that time in front of them that you're asking them to dedicate on the front end. And but what they don't see is what's on the back end. And they don't see that at the end of the job, they're having to there's time consumed there that may go away completely. So it's not like you're asking more on the front end, and that's the immediate, what you see right in front of you. But what you may be discounting is the time saved throughout the run or on the back end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Well, when you're in that inflection point of needing to switch, there's a catch-22. You're like, I'm so busy on the back end, I don't have any time to put extra effort on the front end. So, but if you can eke out that effort, you'll immediately start seeing savings later on, and just a smoother running shop and less firefighting and less scrambling. So sometimes it's a bit of a leap of faith to try to get to that, to get over that cusp.
For sure, got to make the click.
Yeah, you do. John, you'd mentioned that your next AS audit is coming up soon, and it's going to be in ProShop.
It is,
and your QMS guy is excited. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So we're coming up here in a few weeks. Our compliance officer in-house is feeling excited about it. He was working in the system last year when we had our auditor come in and showing her what was inside of ProShop. And she was excited about it. She had some experience with other shops using ProShop. And the customers that have been coming in this year and doing some audits have all been excited and happy to see what it offers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're hoping for good things.
That's awesome. And prior to this, is it sort of the more traditional, just PDFs and Word docs and Excel files in file folders, just kind of organized into a structure?
Yes, it was.
And some paper binders and stuff too, 3D binders.
All of those things, yes.
Yeah. And so it's been a process to move all that stuff out of those documents and out of those paper forms into the digital system. And I imagine your audit will still be a bit of a hybrid. There'll be some of each still, some old, some new.
I think he's pretty well prepared. I think he's got pretty much everything moved over into ProShop.
Oh, nice. That's fantastic. Great. All right. Well, time will tell. I guess maybe we'll check in and see how the audit went, but with high hopes that it's going to go flawlessly.
Always have high hopes it's flawless.
Yeah, but it's often not the case. Yeah. This whole concept of a zero prep audit is something that, again, just kind of came out of the woodwork over the last few years as we had customers mention that to us or talk about it. And it's been a fun thing to see evolve over time. They're like, yeah, we no longer have to prep for it. Just anytime you want to walk in the door, we're ready for you, And I think the most important thing to me with having that mindset and having that reality is that that's the most safe, secure way to run a business, right? That's the most robust way. If you always have all your cars and NCRs and everything tidy and buttoned up and you're just staying on top of it, you are more proactive, you're more able kind of like you, John, you're more able to work on the business. Maybe your compliance or QMS people can work on the systems of making quality better, as opposed to just being reactive and filling out NCRs and making sure things are buttoned up before an audit comes, So
Yeah, definitely.
does that feel like that is the shift that's starting to happen with him?
It does definitely feel like that's the shift that's starting to happen.
I love it. Awesome. All right. As we get, time is flying here because time flies when you're having fun. Do you feel like there's any cultural shift yet in the shop, out on the shop floor with this change? One thing I'll maybe lead with on that is sometimes, and again, I'm not sure how far you've gotten into, digital work instructions and things like that, but a lot of times we hear machinists feel like they are more included in the system, in the process, than they used to be. If all they used to get was just a paper packet and time tracking, but now they have the ability to, share their ideas back into the system, or flow things back upstream with process development, or time tracking notes, or just, I don't know, other tools in the system to kind of make it feel less, office is different than shop in terms of collaboration.
A little bit of both. I'll speak to what I see, and that's that there are people more invested in it, and they do have more of a feeling of understanding the entirety of it, instead of just being handed something. Here, do your job, go over there. I'm going to go back in the office. And we talked about the culture of the shop and like the camaraderie. We try to facilitate too that, hey, if there's something you don't know, go and ask and find out. And so, with ProShop and it being released to the floor and everything, it's such a new system, and there was a change. There was a lot of things people didn't know. So they were going and asking, and they were finding out more information. They were finding out, hey, I can go ask John, but now John has the tool that can teach us and say, hey, look, why don't you use these sections of it? And now you can see what you're trying to look at. And it's not just this job, it's every job. So now you have more power to be able to see that.
Right.
So I wanted Eric to take it first because I see it's starting to get a little bit exciting on that level. There are guys on the floor who are coming in asking questions and then beginning to understand that they can get that feedback back into the system.
Mm-hmm.
And it does, in almost every instance, present some sort of a training opportunity to go back and click into a screen with them and spend a little bit of time and show them more of the tool that's available to them, rather than just throwing a work order and a traveler over the fence. There is, I feel like, more communication growing throughout the shop.
That's awesome. Yeah, and communication, as we all know, is just such a foundational, important thing in any company. But there's, in a machine shop, there's just so many thousands of little details you got to get right for everything to come together nicely. That communication, flowing it down from the office, and really having that collaboration between the shop and the office is so important, because people in the shop are the ones they're the ones doing it every day. They're making the parts, they're seeing firsthand what's happening. They have great feedback to share with programming and planning and quality and how to make the process better. And it sounds like with the mindset that sounds like is fairly pervasive and paramount, that you have this continuous improvement mindset. You need tools to facilitate that to happen. Does it feel like that ProShop is a tool to facilitate that continuous improvement from the shop to the office and back and forth?
I 100% agree that it's a tool. That's the fun part of it is as we talk about, we're maybe moving to the point where we're starting to walk with it, and what tools we've been able to roll out. I'm excited to see, kind of what else that's going to bring for us as far as utilizing the system and the tools that are in it.
Very cool. Are there any areas that I haven't asked about that you're excited about, that you really see having some positive change or improvement already or in the future?
I know it's not tied to it. It's not an accounting package, but I tell you, our accountant is just thrilled that it works with QuickBooks because he hated the other ERP.
Okay.
He tells us every week when he does stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because sometimes we get this feedback from prospects that, oh, it doesn't have, its own fully integrated accounting. Well, we're not even going to consider ProShop. And it's like, that is true. Although, we feel like, we make the integration between another package like QuickBooks, fairly seamless. And because of the way that ProShop, is so deeply integrated on the floor, which is where all the costing data is generated from, like we can actually do way better job costing than most accounting-based systems can. Plus, many of them are just very cumbersome to use, and accountants often don't actually like them. And they can't find people to help, to like hire an accounting assistant that already knows the system. So it's this huge learning curve to even learn a sort of a cumbersome, not very user-friendly system ultimately. So
yeah, it's definitely returned him to his comfort zone.
That's wonderful to hear. Awesome. So I know we're still getting into the crawling to walking phase maybe, but if you could just imagine for a moment, what if you hadn't done this change, if you hadn't put ProShop in, what if we were sitting here today talking, what would the shop look like if you were still on the old system? Or what would you be doing, or what would be different about what's going on today?
We wouldn't be working towards our CMMC compliance because the software that we were using was no longer supported by the manufacturer. We were on an old version with a lot of customizations, and so we had to do something to change. Otherwise, that would be a huge detractor to trying to become CMMC compliant. And as John talked about, doing more defense in aerospace, and starting to see some of those buzzwords, I'll say right now, put in place, and some flow from our customers of making sure that we're aware that this is coming down, and what we're doing to facilitate that.
Yeah, for sure. You'd still have stacks of travelers you need to get in the right order to make sure the machines get set up properly.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to go back and imagine things the other way.
All right, we won't put you through that, John.
No,
we'll move on.
This is so much better for me.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. I have so much respect for, well, you guys know how much I love machine shops and thank a machinist and everything. And I have so much respect for the work that is done in a shop. People like yourselves, that if we can have any impact in making your job easier and making you more productive, or enjoy it more, or feel more successful at it, that just gives me an immense sense of pride. And so I'm glad to hear that, John, that you don't want to go back, and this is better for you.
Well, we really appreciate what you guys have been willing to put into us, and trying to work with us, and trying to help us grow.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Well, you guys have a pretty remarkable company there, and I'm really excited to come in person and see it before too long. And if others want to learn more about Paramount Machine, how would you suggest they get in touch with you guys?
So we have our website, paramount-machine.com. There are multiples. There's a few of us on LinkedIn. You could get a hold of us there. We have an Instagram as well.
Oh, cool.
So
what is that?
You got to ask Eric.
I'll look it up.
We'll have to look it up.
I'll look it up, and I'll make sure it's in the notes on the website.
Yeah, that would be.
Well, I will definitely subscribe to that. That's cool. Are you finding that to be a tool for both customers or finding employees?
I think it's more for the employees. A lot of the customers that we've had, we've been really established with for quite a while, and we've just kind of continued to grow with them.
Yeah.
But for attracting new employees, the younger generation, definitely, they're looking there.
I would agree.
Yeah. Cool. I will definitely check that out. Awesome. Well, John, Eric, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you sharing, a little bit, just authentically of, what it's been like, the challenges you face, the challenges you still are facing. And, again, just huge respect and thanks for what you guys are doing.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Paul.